Welcome everyone to an episode of the Old-Timers Comic Book Show, the only show where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. This time around, we're talking about famous faces in comic books, and who is more famous than the Professor?
Hey! I would say the Machine is more famous than the Professor.
Oh, bless your cotton socks.
And the
And,
most famous one, he has to hide his face.
yeah, the face on your mother with love. It's the 13th Crusader.
Thank you, gentlemen. I am flattered, humbled, and honored.
Yeah. Right. So, famous faces in comic books. This was your kind of idea, 13th. What was the kind of idea behind this other than to rag on celebs?
I think it's just pure fun, to be honest. We've mentioned this before, and actually recently in the past couple of episodes of where comics, you have to try to inject some sort of realism. So sometimes it gets very real where you get actual celebs. You kind of get to poke fun at how they're drawn or how realistic they look to their to the person they're trying to portray. So there's a number of reasons why.
Okay, cool.
Also to attract attention to non-comic book fans.
Yeah, that's a good call. There are some, and then so we kind of picked on our three. There are, as always, some also rans. Which ones have kind of not made the grade this time around, Professor? When we think of celeb comics, what do you think of?
Yeah, so I actually just got a prop to show you. The one that didn't make the grade would be Superman, Muhammad Ali.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
the classic,
See?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's signed by Neil.
Good.
There are plenty of others. So and instantly, so this is the thing when I thought about the celebrities, is it instantly turns into the comic into of its time, right? Depending on the celebrity, right? We've seen several, tons of celebrities over the years in comics. I can think of off the top of my head, Don Rickles appearing in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen back in the day, right? Something that maybe didn't make the cut because of its 25 years time frame that we have for the show. Barack Obama in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. If you remember that. And all kinds of different kind of like, even just if they appear on the cover, like little celebrity things like Stephen Colbert and Jeremy Lin from Basketball Star,
A former Knicks player, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so that's more recent, but we had presidents. Most presidents have appeared in the comics. John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, yeah, he was going to be one of my shouts. Reagan.
Yeah. There have been plenty of musicians that have appeared in comics. The Beatles appeared in the pages of Fantastic Four.
Well, and also, didn't the Beatles have a Marvel book very much akin to Kiss? Marvel put out a Kiss special.
I was also going to bring up Kiss because they appeared in the pages of Howard the Duck.
Cool.
So
13th, who are your also rans?
Well, we've seen Bruce Lee. We've seen even Pope John Paul II. This is Old-Timers era. Like the Professor said, various presidents. I could think of All-Star Squadron with Hoover, Roosevelt, and even some former German dictators.
Yeah, we've seen them a few times.
We've seen someone get
just a few
punched in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggie, isn't it? When we talk off stage during the week and we get prepped for the show, 13th you mentioned about the Beatles, and I said I couldn't pick another Batman book, and everyone's like, "What?" Well, just in case we're not talking about this one. This is one of my favorite conspiracies of all time. This book cover alludes to the fact that the conspiracy that Paul McCartney died in the 60s, as seen on the cover of Abbey Road.
Replaced by a doppelganger.
Yeah, this is it. This is the thing, isn't it? This is the conspiracy. For those that don't know, because of the religion they were into at the time, when they're walking across the zebra crossing, Paul McCartney is not wearing any shoes, and as per the religion, that means they've died. They've moved on to the next level of existence, as it were. So you've clearly got the Beatles in the foreground there. Bats is giving it his all. Oh my God, one of them's dead, and Robin's referencing the album cover there. This is what I meant was we couldn't do another Batman book because I'm always picking Batman. So
are they walking in strawberry fields?
Forever, apparently.
No.
Yeah.
Getting
And
up the yellow
are you-
submarine. See that?
Sorry, what?
Oh,
if they're saying goodbye, are you saying hello?
I just saw them standing there, so I don't.
That is an awesome cover.
We can do this all day.
Yes,
Go
we can.
quote a certain Avenger. But enough of said shenanigans. Let's get on with it. Let's go with the ones we've picked. And I'm going to say, probably the one of us who picked a genuine real life celebrity in a little while. We're going with Avengers, first of all. This is Avengers 239, if my notes correct. 239 from January
Yep.
'84. eBay, you can get this for as little as £4. Go collect. I don't get go collect prices. You guys have to tell me if this is actually reflective of prices in the States. Go collect. You have to pay for a 9.6, $75.
For this book,
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
I don't buy it.
yeah, I don't like grade 8, 26. Now, I'm a fan of certain Avengers, and I'm not a huge David Letterman fan, but I'm not paying anywhere near that at all for this. Written by Roger Stern. Al Milgrom is on art. Joe Sinnott's joining him. Jay Novak's on letters, and C. Shields is on colors. There is a disclaimer on there, Professor. What is this disclaimer all about?
So it's Assistant Editors Month, of course.
It is. Why wouldn't it be?
And this was a gimmick that they did back in I think this was 1984, and the editors had all flown out to San Diego Comic-Con and supposedly left all the assistant editors in charge, and you left the fox in charge of the hen house, and so they kind of did a kind of a funny thing across the titles in that month. So this, of course, this is actually the best one out of all the Assistant Editors Month comics, I think.
That doesn't say a lot.
I loved this book. This was one of my favorite books when I was a kid, because it was an introduction to a lot of the characters that weren't on the team. So or weren't on the team at the time, and it was played for laughs 100%. Why? Because of David Letterman being in the book. And I thought on the cover, doesn't he look surprisingly a lot like Alfred E. Newman, like Mad Magazine?
Yeah, the characteresque style, definitely.
So that really kind of gave me an idea of what to expect inside the book. And then the book actually turned out to be entertaining, with all the different characters that I was introduced to at the time. This was Hawkeye was right off of his limited series here, and at the end of his limited series, he and Mockingbird got married. There's also a few months prior to the Vision establishing the West Coast Avengers. So this was kind of like a Shades of Things to Come, with half the team of the West Coast Avengers actually featuring prominently in this book with Wonder Man. And Wonder Man was the whole idea behind this whole story, was that Wonder Man, being the actor in Hollywood at the time, had a special guest appearance on David Letterman, and wanted some of the Avengers that weren't on the team at the time to appear on the show with him. And it was a really interesting thing, especially with what was going on with Hawkeye, that they played for laughs, because in the Hawkeye limited series, he had fought Crossfire, and in that fight, he went deaf in one ear. And that was played. That's actually they're kind of recapping that story on this page, but when they end up on David Letterman, Hawkeye had gotten a copy of the questions that David was going to ask him, and he memorized the questions, and then of course, in comedic fashion, when the questions got mixed up and he started answering the wrong questions at the wrong time, I thought it was pretty funny. And then of course you have the Beast acting very much like the Beast of old in this book, which I thought was fantastic. You have Black Widow, you have Wonder Man, you have the Black Panther, So a lot of the sub Avengers that hadn't really appeared in a comic in a while show up here. And then of course the villain is one of those I remember fondly, Fabian Stankiewicz, who apparently he builds robots and wants to beat the Avengers to get on TV, and really is a terrible villain. But
he's one of the forgettable clan. This is Mr. Forgettable of the Forgettables.
Fabian actually has a pretty long history with the Avengers. He actually comes in a couple of more appearances where he's beaten quickly, like in a couple of pages, just for laughs. And then later on in the pages of Captain America and the Avengers, he is one of the kind of back office support team members of the Avengers in the background. So it's interesting stuff, especially in the pages of Captain America. But David Letterman actually, he features prominently in this issue as opposed to a couple of panels and done. He's actually in throughout this issue and actually beats Fabian Stankiewicz. The Avengers don't. David Letterman hits him over the head with a doorknob and beats the bad guy. I thought it was funny. It was a fun issue, and I can't say anything bad about it. I'll leave that to you, Johnny. But
right, I'm going to say, let me get warmed up first. 13. What did you think of this book?
I love the cover, and I'm a fan of Al Milgrom, of his artwork. He's a great person to meet if you ever see him at a convention. I love this cover for a number of reasons. In the corner box, in the corner box, all of the Avengers are facing the other way. Yeah, and then the header itself reminds me a lot of DC if you look at the top right. So that's kind of a little shout to them, I guess. And David Letterman, the smile that you see on the cover is the same face he's going to put throughout the entire comic book. And I thought that was funny. So right off the bat, it's kind of meant to get, lighten things up for the Avengers. Sometimes some of their stories could be a little dark, but I love seeing this lineup of Avengers. I love the Hawkeye, Mockingbird. This reminded me of that era of when they first met. They got married right away. Soon after this is when they started to form the West Coast Avengers. So it brought back a lot of good memories. With the Beast, obviously, he was a member of the Defenders, or as what was called the New Defenders. He was part of that group. And you know how much I like Defenders. So this had a lot of things that I liked. And I thought it was very clever to use Wonder Man as kind of that segue to say, hey, he is an actor. He's got to have some sort of connections. He can't be that bad of an actor. So I thought that was very clever to kind of use him to kind of bring all the other Avengers into the forefront of being on TV in a positive manner, not necessarily on the news. So I thought that was a good thing. All in all, again, like I said, I like the artwork in here. I thought it was clever for the Assistant Editors Month. I'm going to agree with Bud that this is probably the best one of the bunch for the Assistant Editors Month, because some of the other ones were just not as good. But I think this one is definitely at the best.
Okay.
Can I also say how Joe Sinnott makes everybody look good?
That's true.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, true that. We've said that before, though, so that's cool. All right. Okay. For a book that's supposed to feature Wonder Man up in his street cred, he doesn't get a lot of love in this book. No, I mean, if you look at when they're on the show, he's second in line. He doesn't answer any questions, and he interrupts his own interview. It's like, come on. The other thing, I just noticed as I was flicking through the book, Hawkeye says that he's deaf in one ear, and it's implied that it's his left ear. Yet every other person that talks to him, apart from the Vision, he hears clearly. On the left. There's Mockingbird, he doesn't hear there. But then if you want to carry it through, Mockingbird's still there talking to him. And it's just, come on, let's be consistent about this, please. Come on.
Well,
I know the editors.
It was played for a gag. So
yeah, that's good. It's fine. I'm all right with gags. Didn't realize you could get topless sunbathing in a comic book. There we
Well,
go.
that's Black Widow. She's
Yeah.
always naked in the books.
Be still my heart. I did love the Beast in this, and the art's great, and it is played for laughs. It's a gimmick book. I always feel this the same way about Hawkeye and Mockingbird as doing with Green Arrow and Canary. I always feel that Mockingbird's like just, or Canary even, they're just kept on the sidelines. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not until the West Coast Avengers where she probably comes into her own a bit. I like Mockingbird. I just wish I knew more about her at the time when I was growing up. Black Panther's barely in this, and he's just there for the, I suppose, being an Avenger. For me, the book reads kind of like of its time. I know we say that a lot, but this is the mid-'80s. Comic books were kind of going through a bit of a lull patch. Mm-hmm. This isn't the best Avengers lineup, it has to be said. Although I know it has a lot of charm for people, and it would lead to Avengers West Coast. And everybody I know loves West Coast. So
the other thing I'll throw in here too, Machine, is that David Letterman was very popular, and he always made sure that to get the guests that were coming on his show were the ones that everyone wanted to hear from.
Yeah.
So there's that factor in here too. So again, like some of these books, gimmicks or otherwise, I think it was a good idea to blend the humor, blend the Avengers that you haven't seen in a while, plus David Letterman. How you're not going to know who he is because he was everywhere at that time.
Yep.
I read recently as well that they're going to take it to modern day. I think Marvel. I think I read somewhere they're going to do a Beast Wonder Man miniseries coming up soon.
I heard that they were doing a heritage edition of like their miniseries from like 30 years ago, but I haven't heard about anything new. But why you can't use Beast right now? He's toxic in the comics right now.
Oh well, there's the fall of X. Who knows what it's going to be like after that, right?
Right. Well, it would be hopefully it would be maybe like a return to glory for him because he needs some redemption.
Yeah.
He's part of that trivia question, right? An X-Men, an Avenger, and a Defender.
Yeah.
And the champion.
And the champion.
Was he in Champions?
No, he was not.
No.
I did remember, just talking about David Letterman, I remember another celebrity book that just barely missed my selection this time around. The original cast of Saturday Night Live was in an issue of Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man.
Oh, really? That just missed the 25s.
It was It was Amazing Spider-Man and the Not Ready for Primetime Players. And that was the original cast of Saturday Night Live. John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. They were all in it. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Excellent. All right, we're going to take a quick break for one of our other adverts before we get into the next book. The next book is an absolute peach. It's the best thing we've looked at for a while. Oh, yes, I went there. Advert-wise, where should we go? I tell you what, we've just finished off with Avengers. You want to catch up with what's going on with Avengers and all other sorts of Marvel shenanigans, including the long dialogue of Loki. Check out the No Prize. There's the No Prize podcast hosted by that guy over there. There you go.
And that guy over there.
Well, I just sit there and look pretty. So, that tells you how good the show is. That said, it's time for our next choice, which is it's the 13th. 13th choice. And I'm ready for some cheesecake. Anybody?
Yeah, I'll take a couple of slices, please.
I'm sure you would. All right, here we go. It's Elvira's House of Mystery #1 from January '86. eBay, you have to spend 45 hard-earned English pounds for this beauty. Go collect. have a 9.6 at 150, a grade 8 at $48. Written by Joey Cavalieri, art by Ron Wagner and Bob Oskner, letters by Kurt Hathaway, and colors by Liz Berube, because she's got a thing on. I think this is your choice. I wonder what two things caught your attention with Elvira.
Was it Liz Berube? Berube?
Yeah.
It could be. I think it was the ring she's wearing. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, that's the first thing you think of when you think of Elvira. It's a ring.
No, I mean, I was gonna make a boob joke, but I feel it would be too uplifting.
Well, they definitely wouldn't fall flat.
No,
That's true.
No,
That's
indeed.
true.
Indeed. I'm just keeping my mouth shut because I just, I don't want to make a tit out of myself. Right, carry on.
I actually bought this comic not too long ago. And
Why? Does your missus know that you bought this book?
no, she knows.
When I buy books like this, my wife turns around and says, "Why are you buying porn out of all the comic books you've got?"
Yeah, this is like one of those why not? Why not get it? It's first of all the cover, right? Artistically, Brian Bolland, we all know what he did, the Killing Joke cover, the very famous Killing Joke cover.
A whole
And
host of Justice League covers as well.
that's true. And then this one as well. I thought he did a phenomenal job with the cover.
And the Wonder Woman ones. Do you remember the Wonder Woman ones he did?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, those are very strong too.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's a lot of Brian Bolland covers out there that will definitely grab your attention. So obviously after purchasing this one, I had a very hard time.
Did you?
Turning the page because I was really mesmerized by the cover. So it's a job well done on Elvira. So for those that don't know, Elvira is a celebrity played by Cassandra Peterson for many, many years. I did meet her a few years ago. She's very, very nice in person. She looked a little cold and she said it was nippy out there, but no, she's a very nice person. And Elvira really got her fame for being a horror hostess of like B and C level horror movies. And she was just a master of puns, which you know how much of a fan of those things I am. So
I wouldn't know because you've not said any.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so but during this time she was on, very famous. So why not? And not only was she thrown into a comic book, but this was actually a series of 11 comic books and a special that Elvira got. And I thought it was a very, very clever thing to have her go to the House of Mystery. Why not? House of Mystery, we covered an issue not too long ago. This was a long-standing run with, and whatchamacallit, it was basically, what's the word I'm looking for? With multiple stories in each book. Anthology. Thank you, gentlemen. So, I thought it was a good idea with anthology books. It's horror, not easy to write. You kind of get to showcase your talent with a short story. So I always felt like those were harder for creators to do. But just like Elvira in the movies, she's in this book in her own little adventure, but also kind of in a way hosting stuff that's happening in the House of Mystery along with Kane.
That's a fair shout to say. I've given out the credits for the guys that wrote and drew the Elvira pieces. There are a host of creators on this book, some of which you'll recognize and others you won't. So I'm not giving any discredit to anybody, but there's just shed loads. We'd be here for at least an hour just talk about who's in this book.
Yeah, and for the artwork on Elvira, it's pretty solid. Some panels are very well done. Others are okay, but I don't think any of them are poor. So the art throughout the anthology for some of the horror stories, there's a couple here that are a little, I don't know, not totally up to par, but then there's others that I liked. I think my favorite part of this anthology really was with the wizard, like the sorcery and all that stuff. I thought that was a very strong, well-written story, and kind of reminded me a lot of Doctor Strange in a way. But each of these stories in the anthology was a clue for Elvira to escape the House of Mystery because she was being chased by a mob. and eventually she figures things out and actually likes the house a lot, and thus will begin the rest of the series for Elvira. This is, if I am not mistaken, I believe this is Elvira's first appearance in a comic book. It certainly won't be her last after this series, but yeah, it kicks off with that beautiful Brian Boland cover. I had to buy it when I saw it.
You were kind enough. You have this.
Mhm.
You have this book in your collection, and you were
Mhm.
kind enough to send us some pictures of the aforementioned book. So let me drag some of those into the light. So for those of you who have no idea who we're talking about, this young lady is Elvira, and you can see how the art represents. There you go. Check out that hair, and yes, I said hair. The hair's bonkers. It's like, what? That's fine.
Well, this was a classic 1980s type cheesecake, celebrity. You could turn her on.
I'm sure.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, if you come home, turn the TV on at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Elvira would be on somewhere on the late show.
I'll just throw a couple tidbits about Elvira. So she's obviously been around for a long time, but she went on a date with Elvis Presley. Obviously, I mentioned all those horror movies and things like that. Um, I believe she signed up with Hugh Hefner for a bit too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
So
I remember I've seen the movie. I've seen the Elvira movie, and it's campy. It makes no sense.
super campy, yeah.
Considering her dress is cut like that, she has this great big setup of where she's getting dressed and she's putting on thigh high stockings and she's putting the suspender clasp on. And for the rest of the movie, she's wearing like proper hosiery. She's wearing tights. She's not wearing the thigh highs at all. It's just a setup for something else. It's just crazy. And I always thought of it as more like because there's Elvira and there's Vampirella who did the same sort of thing in the comics, would host the anthology of stories. So the books look good. What grade did you get that on?
Oh man, I don't know. I give it something close to a 9. It was that's why I got it too, because it was well kept, and I saw the cover. I'm like, I don't have this. And as you guys know, as I get older, I start to appreciate the horror comics, the mystery comics a little more. So I had to get it. And why not? If it's truly her, I truly believe it's her first appearance in comics, but I could be wrong. And if it is, sweet.
Let's have a look. Whilst we're talking, we can have a quick look. Elvira's first comic book appearance is in. Oh. Dear me. Is that really that? Well, Google's come up with a different book.
Cool. Now I got to get that one too.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, from Marvel Comics in May 1988.
Oh, so that's after this.
Yeah.
This was before. This was before that.
Yeah, I'm just. There you go. An expert, key issues. First appearance of Elvira is this book. There you go.
Sweet.
There you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna have to get the other one to complete the set.
There's I get. I'm not insane on this. I get the attraction for Elvira. She's all chest and legs. She is the epitome of the tits and ass type thing that cheesecake goes with, and I love cheesecake. Professor, what was your take on this book?
So this is one of those DC anthology series that it was a mix of news stories and reprints, right? So I mean, a lot of these stories this was not the first time you'd seen some of these, especially in some of the creators. I think I saw Robert Kanigher in there, and he's old school. Like he was Silver and Golden Age writer, as far as I remember. And didn't he do? I thought he was on like Captain Marvel. Kanigher, I think he was on.
I'm not sure.
I think he was an old Captain Marvel creator, but let me. I'll look him up too. Will you guys
I was looking up for something else, but by all means, go for it.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see some of these stories again, and a lot of them, don't fit. Like they don't flow. Like the first stories are like a Dungeons and Dragons story, which is a weird Dungeons and Dragons story, considering it's like this is definitely like a first edition Dungeons and Dragons rules. Some of the stuff you said talking orcs, and other than Lord of the Rings, you'd never seen the orcs before. So so Robert Kanigher, American comic book editor, spanned 5 decades. He involved with Wonder Woman franchise for over 20 years.
There you go. Okay.
So so that's where I knew his name from, Wonder Woman. But he also did Sergeant Rock, Metal Man, Flash. So
fair few.
Yeah, but I enjoyed a lot of these stories. I thought the one that 13, like the one in the middle, that was like a 22-page full issue story of standalone, and I was like, I wonder where that must have been reprinted before, or must have the first print, because it totally didn't fit the kind of style of the rest of the book. It wasn't a horror. It was more, like you said, more of like a Doctor Strange type issue. So it was interesting. And that's the one thing that I think that these books normally did, was say where the book had been printed before, or the story. And I don't know if it did that in this.
No, I didn't see where it had been printed.
But I could be wrong, but I'm 100%. I'm 99% sure that this is not all first printing of these stories. In fact, it looks like some of those, like the story that had Kane in it, it looked like they penciled Elvira in over the original. Didn't it?
Yeah.
If you look, there's a couple of pages.
What page were we looking at? Can you remember?
It was the it might be that story.
Well,
go to the first page, or maybe the story before that. That one. See her in the corner there, and then she's at the end of that story, saying, "Is this guy? This is Kane." That right there.
Yeah. I think that's a throwback to what she was doing on the TV, though, is it not?
Yeah. So I thought it fit. It fit, but I was like, "Oh, that's totally not the same artist on that page." So
no, it's
are you guys making fun of Busty the Vampire Slayer?
Well,
hey, I'm out. Yeah,
I'm just happy that this book was double sized.
Agreed.
It would have to be logistics. I enjoyed the book for what it was. Books. We talk about books of an age, and this is supposed to be an 80s book, but some of it felt, for the reprint element, definitely. Some of the art I would have expected to see those like heavy lines from those 70s, the early 80s and the late 70s DC artists.
Yep.
Like
the
Tom
hairstyles.
McGregor.
Yeah, these hairstyles are 70s hairstyles, not 80s.
The Elvira elements look fine. That she looks like she's supposed to look. The dress goes through some weird changes, left, right, and center. Which, each to their own. I had to laugh though. I did have to laugh. I mentioned this earlier about this. Somehow between us, I think only. I mean, saying Elvira's a celebrity, I get she's a celebrity. She's a persona. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. But if we were doing personas, then I could have picked the Star Trek book, because there's shed loads of William Shatner in those.
That's true.
So whilst I appreciate Elvira, what's the name of the girl? Cassandra Peterson. Cassandra Peterson. Yeah. The book does not feature her. She's the face. I'm just saying. It's fine. I'm just being cranky because the Dolphins are going to lose to the Raiders today, so I'm just being cranky.
Sounds like you need a trip through the House of Mystery machine.
It does. Maybe Elvira's house would be better though.
I think that's where the Giants are, but they can't find their way out.
No, I think horror had a bit of a shot in the arm, didn't it, in the 80s? Because you had things like Nightmare on Elm Street was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
With those sort of movies that were a real love reignited, I suppose, for those kind of 50s 50s, 60s, like Hammer horror type style movies. And you think about it, when I think about Elvira, she fits that kind of Hammer House vamp brilliantly. You know, but then she just plays it for laughs rather than for scares.
Right.
And that's cool. You know, and it's a fun book. It is a fun book. So
yeah, I would almost call it more of like a last gasp than a resurrection.
really,
Of horror. Yeah, I think this kind of 80s horror, once Elvira kind of faded into the woodwork, Tales of the Crypt Keeper, like late 80s, all that stuff went away, and then there was nothing really for a long time.
Okay, it's fair shout. It's fair shout. Yeah. Okay, yeah, 86, yeah. It makes more sense, definitely.
Yeah.
Colours were all over the place. They do pale her out quite a lot. Is that obviously to build up the idea that she's supposed to be a vampire?
Yeah.
But the accentuation of that colour works really well. When you consider this is the old colouring method as well, 13, this is, it's a good shout, definitely. And of course, everyone gets.
And she was pale on camera too. Like they made her look white-ish.
Oh, all right, okay.
Right.
Obviously,
While you
I'm
guys
not
are looking at the pages, I still looking at the cover. So
obviously, I'm obviously not the Elvira fan that some people are.
hey, watch where you put that cursor machine.
What this cursor? Or this cursor? Or this cursor?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Oh, no. So that one's all right.
Yeah, that one's okay.
That one's wrong. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay, I stand corrected. Oh my god.
Hey, you get a lot of bang for your buck with this book. There's a lot of pages for
there is. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I think House of Mystery is one of those books that I think DC do really well.
Yes.
That anthology stuff. When you think about what Professor's mentioned about the reprint element, absolutely. But then they've got that catalogue of stuff they can pull out of. Marvel aren't against doing this sort of thing, but Marvel Comics Presents came out about mid-80s.
The stories were too short, though.
Well, no, 8-page stories.
Yeah.
8-page stories. Marvel Comics Present 8-page stories here. Yeah.
We could say that about Action Comics when it went weekly.
Yeah.
Action Comics had like shed loads of stories and in the middle they'd have like a 2-page Superman. Yeah.
I remember.
Say, hey, there's still a Superman book, right? I've got a bunch of them here because I've got in fact, I've got it's Alan Davis. I've got an Alan Davis Black Canary cover, which is absolutely gorgeous over there somewhere. So, but no, I think anthologies can work. I think they're a great way to kind of get either the genre down, in this case horror or comedy horror in some places, and also to introduce characters that you don't know so well.
Yeah. But it was also an opportunity for editors to stock up on stories. So like they would hire artists and writers to do a quick 8-page story, have it to me by Monday, and then it would just go in a drawer and it would be a backup. Or if they were coming up against a deadline, they could just throw an 8-pager in there and be done with it. Julius Schwartz was famous for having closets full of unused stories and artwork that he was like quick, and sometimes he would recycle them, recycle those stories or the same idea in an issue that he had done already before. J.M. DeMatteis used to resubmit the same story, the same exact story. He would just change, like it was, instead of a pirate ship, it was a spaceship, but that would be the same exact story, and he would get paid twice for the same story. True story.
I'm glad for this that they decided to bring in Elvira and have her go to the House of Mystery rather than the Haunted Hills. That's my last bad joke about that.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna drive Machine crazy today.
No. It's all good. It's all good.
Let's go to the House of Mystery and look for our football teams, Johnny.
Yeah, well, I think if Tua survives today, it'll be a miracle. Right, last up, when we talked about celebrities, I could have gone was Ronald Reagan from The Dark Knight Returns, which is clearly Ronald Reagan, no matter what people say. You could have had Nixon in the Captain America story, which again is alluded to, but then comes out after the event and says it most certainly definitely is. In the end, I decided to go with somebody who is infamous within comic books from a period of time of this character that I absolutely loved. I love probably 86 to 89 before the clone. That is one of my favorite periods of this character. And I was lucky enough to read this the first time around. It is the Cult of Love storyline from Web of Spider-Man. And I've picked issue number 3 for this because that on the cover is none other than Jim Salicrup. There you go. Thank you very much. And the professor can say it is because he's met him. Not once, probably more than once. Is that Jim on that cover?
So it's a funny story. Just 2 weeks ago when I was at the Comic-Con, and I spent the weekend sitting with Jim Salicrup and Don because they're best friends. And Jim actually signed at least one copy of this book. And when he was handed that book to sign, he actually held it up, showed Don, and he said, "That's me on the cover," and signed it. And Don was like amazed. Don was like, "Who? They drew you on the cover?" Blah blah blah. He's like, "Yeah, it's me in the book." it was done as a joke. He didn't know at the time when this book was being created that they were gonna put him in there and have him be this sleazy photographer that was taking pictures of Mary Jane and her nethers. But it was an interesting story and funny, and I totally buy it. Jim probably got a huge kick out of this when he saw the finished artwork.
For the record, I did not know that story before the show. I picked this because I knew who it was. This is Web of Spider-Man 42 from September 88. eBay has this at a $5. Go collect. You can get anywhere between $9 to $29, depending on the grade. It's written by Peter David, art by Alex Saviuk, who we've mentioned a couple of times recently, so it's good that we're giving him some focus. Inks are by Keith Williams, letters are by Rick Parker, and colours are by Janet, not What Have You Done For Me Lately, Jackson. Funny story, I read this book and I kind of doing my notes for the show, and I started singing every time when I look around. Do, do, do. And my wife's like, "Why are you singing that song? Why is that coming to your head?" Janet Jackson, man. Janet Jackson. She's everywhere. Son of a gun. All right, so it's part 3 of a story. Quick recap. Betty Brant has been indoctrinated into a cult of love. Flash is upset about this because him and her are sort of dating. Enlists Peter to ask Spider-Man to go and intervene, as they do, and he so does. Side plot, Mary Jane's trying to get her acting career off the ground and she's modeling for some risque photos. Couple of another guest star that you could say celebrity alike, I suppose, rather than true celebrity is. It is this guy, the teacher, is obviously Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid, despite the dodgy colouring. Right, so you get 2 for, well, you get 1.5. All right, there you go. I'm happy to take 1.5. But the story is it's Peter David, so it's clever, it's witty. Al Saviak, this is before everyone got Todd McFarlane, so you could do the classic Peter Parker. You can see the classic MJ. This one's where she's got a screw bus, and then Peter's having the chat with Mr. Miyagi alike. He buys it. So he's thinking, I'll just let Betty be. MJ gets a cold shoulder, ends up posing for the photos anyway. Jim's like, I love that job. I love my job. We have to ask Jim next time you see him what he thought of MJ's assets, please. That'd be cool. Then one of the funniest things ever, we see the basketball shot where he flicks it over his head and goes. And of course, this basketball thing is, we've seen this in one of the Spider-Man movies at least.
Yeah.
The Andrew Garfield's one. Spidey finds out that he's been tricked. Whilst he's doing this, Flash and his mates decide to re-kidnap Betty to try and deprogram her. All in all, considering it's a Spider-Man book and considering it's the third-tier Spider-Man book, I think there is an absolute shed load of reading in this book. The characters all have something to say. Everybody has a place to play, whether it's be Kate, the missing sister, the Reverend, Mr. Miyagi, Peter, the sleazeball, MJ's mate. All of them get decent screen time to move the story along. Nothing is missed. I'm not saying it's holding the reader's hand, but what I am saying, it does progress in the logical way that you'd expect, not kind of jumping from left to right to left to right all the time. The art, I think, is spot on for the era. It's Spider-Man. This is a Spider-Man that you kind of know and love. And the whole ending where they've got the trying to deprogram Betty, it just works. This book, when ran with Spec Spidey, was fantastic. So I really love this book. I love the Cult of Love series, to be fair. Where we going? Professor, what do you think? You're a Marvel guy. What do you think of this book?
Yeah, I think we talked about Al Saviuk a couple of episodes ago, and he was like one of those serviceable members of the art team that just kind of held the fort down. He just kind of, not a lot of people remember him as one of the staunch Spider-Man artists of the '80s, but his run on Web was years long. And he did kind of keep the same tone with Sal Buscema. They kind of looked similar.
I love Sal Buscema as well. To be fair,
this was the era where where people still put backgrounds in the art, so it was actually interesting to look at the artwork and see what's going on. There was a lot going on, and a lot of the words, you're right. I remember these issues fondly. And one of the big issues that I did have with the book, though, is this is one of your pet peeves too, is Spidey spends a lot of time on his feet.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout. That is a good shout.
Yeah.
I think it's alluded to in the second issue. I think in the second issue, when he's on the bus heading out to the cult compound, Peter says, in his mind, because thought bubbles, he says something like, "Man, these houses must be really cheap just to have all these big long driveways." So I imagine this is like Hampton-esque, where there's not a lot of web swinging going on.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, he does spend. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot more Peter than there is.
Well, maybe it's because there was a lot of Peter in this issue.
Yeah,
but
that's cool. No, it's fine. Yeah, I'd love that job too. I'm just saying that. That's 13th. Were you in the Spider-Man back this time?
Yeah, I was. It's a decent story. But when you see Jim Salicrup, can you ask him if he's related to the Beyonder?
That's another good shout. I thought that when I was writing my notes, I was like,
Yeah, it's an okay story. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving pieces, and that's kind of meant to not just entertain the reader, but to get you emotionally invested as well. So you can go from like disbelief to anger to wow, and things like that. So I think with the script, it definitely accomplishes that. It's an interesting situation for Betty Brant to be in. I think it's even more interesting that Flash Thompson somehow gets dragged into this, so he's involved. Peter Parker's in here, obviously. I agree with you guys. I feel like there was more airtime for Peter than there was for Spider-Man. But then again, if you want to see Spider-Man, you had 3 titles to choose from back then, plus Marvel Team Up and any other cameos that he may have been doing. So
Marvel Tales was still around at this
Marvel
time.
Tales, the reprints, exactly. So there's plenty of Spider-Man going around. So I guess you were kind of okay with that. I think the artwork was at its strongest with Mary Jane, especially in the panels where she's in the apartment and she's on the phone. That is spot on, almost Romita-esque. Mary Jane.
I'm just seeing where I'm on the phone. 2 seconds, I had gone past it.
Yeah, you went past it.
I know. Sorry, I got. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a very strong MJ panel for sure. And as far as what she was doing with posing and things like that, I want to know who the editor was that, or somebody that decided to crop the pictures. But hey, that's just my small complaint.
Yeah.
We'll love to
She's
see the
not.
original artboard for this.
She's not Elvira.
Well,
For those of you who are worried about MJ's innocence in this book, in this story, let me tell you that in issue 4, the photos come back. May Parker's visiting at the same time. Thinks the Peter's work. She has a look at him. Oh, of that disgusting Spider-Man. Opens up the envelope and sees Mary Jane in her all-togethers, and MJ realizes, that it wasn't for her. She burns them on the stove or whatever. So the photos don't see the light of day. MJ's acting career goes the way it should.
I'm surprised no one has asked an artist for a commission of that panel, the complete panel.
Look, the other side round, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is I absolutely, like how in DC, Johnny, I hate Vandal Savage.
Uh-huh.
I have the same feeling for Dr. Druid.
He's harmless.
I don't get the character at all. Like everywhere I've seen him, it's like you couldn't find anyone else. That's the guy that you put in here, Dr. Druid.
Yeah, because he knows Doctor Strange, doesn't he? Spidey's.
He's like a rent-a-sorcerer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate the character. Never liked him. And in here, it's like, what was the point of talking to him? Spider-Man's like, I need someone who really knows his hocus from his pocus. Well, then you call Dr. Druid because Doctor Strange wasn't around. I don't know. I just don't like the character at all.
Well, when they reinvented him back in the 90s, it was they actually made him more of like a druid type character than a Doctor Strange sorcerer type. So I actually liked him better when they brought him back and gave him hair. They changed his hairstyle. So
power of magic.
I like this bit where he's just lounging around in his Spidey suit. Yeah. And he's got like a robe over the top of it so no one can see it, but his legs are sticking out like this. Like, oh my God. That's such a crazy thing. Well done, Spider-Man. Well done.
Still got his gloves on.
Yeah. No, I think it's Peter David. I absolutely adore Peter David and his writing. So, it was... Sorry if mine isn't quite as celebrity-esque as yours,
but no, I think yours holds water because there was so many comic creators that wrote themselves into their own books, and you have to talk about that when you're talking celebrities. And maybe they're not celebrities, but they're comic book celebrities.
Yeah.
Lee and Kirby wrote themselves. Well, Lee wrote himself into it all the time, and Kirby. Well, maybe Kirby produced the artwork, so.
I'm surprised you didn't squeeze out Neil Hammond out of this book, Machine, when you were talking about Peter Parker.
Neil Hammond?
The actor for the Spider-Man TV show in the 70s.
Oh, that's Nicholas Hammond.
Nicholas Hammond. Sorry, not Neil. Nicholas.
Did you know that Nicholas Hammond was in the one of the Van Tramp kids in The Sound of Music?
I did not know that.
There you go.
We learn something new every day, Machine.
And we talk about comic celebrities, but they're not comic celebrities like we're comic celebrities. Right?
Yeah. Well,
No?
Well, you might have got recognized more at the Comic-Con when you went last week.
I did. And funny enough, I absolutely totally did. I absolutely did. I walked in.
Did you love it?
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was cool. It was good. It was good. Well, my wife didn't love it. We had VIP passes, and we got there just as it was opening, and it was like 300, 400 people deep. So I said, right, you stay here and hold our place in the queue. I'll go and see if the passes are down at the door. So I must have been walking for a good 5 minutes to get to the door. I said, my name's Johnny the Machine Hughes. I'm here from UCPN. Go, oh, yeah, here's your passes. Great, cool. 2 passes. Woo! Ring my wife. Right, leave the queue. Come on down. So my wife's then walking past all these people who've been queuing steadily since God knows when. And she's getting like the daggers off everybody.
Oh, so, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we go through a different door at Rhode Island Comic-Con and then bypass the lines, and Terrificon too. I don't have to stand in a line. I just walk through.
I bumped
Parks.
For no prize, I met Alex Packnadle, who's done a lot of the tie-in books when They have the big event things. They did a couple of Immortal Hulks for valuing when they were tied into stuff. So yeah, it was good. I didn't see Jason Aaron. Did see Jeff Lemire.
Oh, I like Jeff Lemire.
And I saw a whole host of indie books. So cool.
Hmm.
Cool. There you go. So check out Thought Bubble. Get yourselves listed on their website for your early emails for next year. It is absolutely well worth the visit. There you go. And as for celebrities, we are done with our books. Well done.
Yeah.
Good choice, gentlemen. Excellent. So don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor.
No Prize Podcast, all about the MCU, Disney Plus, and we do manage to talk about some comics, as good as they are.
I'm not saying a word. 13th Crusader.
And don't forget to check out the Definitive Crusade, all about the DC comics that came out last night.
Yeah, last night.
Not
All
the one
right.
from a few years ago. Last night, literally last night.
Yeah, last night. And of course, if you want to hear about creators, check out Outside the Panels for your interviews with a whole host of Kickstarters, Marvel guys, DC guys, Dark Horse guys. They're all there. Just go look for them. All right, gentlemen. The Dolphins and the Raiders. Are the Giants playing?
Who?
Exactly, and the Patriots are going to lose the bye week, apparently.
Yep. Yep. Someone will get injured.
Yeah. So someone's going to fall down a step or something. Yeah,
I'm just going to go reread the Elvira book.
All right. Well, enjoy your full quarters of that then, I guess. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.